Now, first of all, we've started by isolating the age group. We know, for instance, that being in school is a protective factor. We are looking at data. We are working with UNAIDS to look at data and see the impact of COVID, because we saw, a very high rate of teenage pregnancies during COVID, because, teenagers and children were out of school. But from previous studies, which we are trying to update, HIV prevalence amongst the school-going group is low. We need to do newer studies. The Ministry of Health did a study some time back. It was around 1%. So school is a protective factor. There are still issues there in schools around stigma and discrimination from fellow learners, from teachers. But the general message is that let's have our young ones in school. In addition to equipping them with skills that will help them to protect them in other areas, but you're giving them skills to protect themselves from HIV, negotiation skills, you're cushioning them, from issues in the environment. So school is a protective factor. HIV prevalence is generally low in schools. We are trying to update that information. And we have tables. I have data that USA has data that we can share with you. I have my colleagues here. There is Ruth from the Documentation Center. Yes, Ruth, please share. I have Joanita and the others. You probably know them. So you can look at the details. But we have prevalence tables by district. So we know, and we are supported by UNAIDS. Our data is verified, and it's on global standards. We know where the new cases are, how many by district. We know the enrollment on ART by district. And we can drill, that's why we think if we all put in effort, we can drill down and end this epidemic. So it's a lot of information. It's not something I can give you off cuff. Look at some of those fact sheets and synthesize, and come back to us if you have any other questions. Initiatives, yes, we have multiple initiatives out there addressing different components by different players, both from government, but also from our partners. We have, for instance, support from the US government program called the Presidential Emergency Relief for AIDS, started by President Bush about 20 years ago. PEPFAR, that you know as PEPFAR. It has a program called DREAMS. It's in selected, it looks at, we've sat and agreed on selected districts with high prevalence. It's a package, that comes with equipping young people with information, with, economic packages, with psychosocial support. It is specifically geared towards making sure that the HIV negative young people don't get infected. It especially targets those who are at risk of dropping out of school, and all the other vulnerabilities. We have programs within government that also, there are things you hear about households. You will be amazed when you look at issues that are making our people vulnerable. If you have a home and you have 6 children and you're struggling to find a meal to eat in a day, culturally, our people say, even before a young child is 15, they are sending her out to go and looking at her as a source of income for the family. But if that family can be cushioned, if that young person can be in school, so there are initiatives like those ensuring that wealth, household incomes are improved and cushioning those. So wealth creation, income inequality is being addressed, providing information, and it's both from government, from PEPFAR, from the bilaterals, from programs like the Global Fund supporting us to be able to unleash. So there are different initiatives. Again, if you look at the details of our reports, we are able to share some of those. Your second question was on Rakai, that what is the status in Rakai? One of the reasons we go back to Rakai now is we go back to Rakai feeling a little victorious, because the HIV prevalence for Rakai is around the national average. It's about 5.3, 5.4. So you can see that we can interpret that to say, because we really, all of us descended there, that's where the program started. Of course, it took the brunt. Rakai lost a lot of people We had child-headed households. You know, we had orphans there. You could find whole homes with coffins, but it has turned that round, and we want to go there in memory of those people. We want to remember them. We want to recognize them for the violence and, you know, facing the epidemic with braveness. And you spoke about, of course, there is a part of Rakai that's on the lake, which is Kasensero, the fisher folks. Again, we have programs focusing on them. The fisher folks, you know, they are young people, they are dynamic, they are risk takers. They have just survived the risks of the lake. So really, our aggression is to give them information that you need to survive for tomorrow, for you to be around, to go out and look for wealth and do work again. So they are very intensive programs targeting them. And it is related to one of the questions Brian asked. We have a category of the population that we call key populations, because we all don't face the same risks. There are people either because of what they're engaged in, their lifestyles, it puts you at risk of acquiring HIV more than others. And sex workers are among those, the key populations who are at risk. If you engage in, it is illegal for us in Uganda for same-sex people to engage in sex, but it's high-risk sex, and HIV prevalence is highest amongst that group. It's as high as 30 to 40%, you know? So again, having information and ensuring that what people are doing necessarily puts them at risk of certain things is key. And those specific groups, there are programs targeting those specific groups, like sex workers, you know? Government is not stopping that to happen. Sex work is illegal, and they may be arrested and taken to prison for sex work, but government will not stop a health worker from treating the sex worker. The question on prisons, Musa, the HIV virus has been the most eluding for the scientists because it behaves differently from the other viruses. You know, it behaves differently, and lots of investments have been made when you look at public health in finding a vaccine for HIV, but we are not yet there. The options that have been found, because for every solution, before it's put to the population to use, the benefits must outweigh the disadvantages. We wouldn't want to provide false hope that take a vaccine, you are not okay, and people go out there. So we've not yet made a breakthrough, but we want Ugandans to remain hopeful, to keep alive. We know that work continues to be done by the scientists, both our local scientists and globally. I am sure that either during our lifetime or the lifetime of our children, there will be a cure and there will be a vaccine. So we shouldn't lose hope. I think those were the questions. I don't know if my colleagues want to add anything.